Hello everyone, Statname here, and today we'll continue breaking down hands that were played on a PokerBros platform. My friend was kind enough to provide those hands. He is an L100 regular, and without further ado, let's get to it. Ace-10 offsuit on the big blind, recreational player open limps on the small blind. We ISO to 4 blinds, he calls, and the board is Ace, Queen, 3 rainbow. Okay, let's go over his stats first. 46-17, loses 38 big blinds per 100, 13k hands. He's quite aggressive, around 40% aggression frequency on every street. 1-1 soft flop, 52. And how does our hero play here? He bets third of the pot and gets a call. 8 on the turn, hero decides to overbet and faces a shove from a recreational player. And the first thing I want to point out here is that our hand Ace-10 is not a great candidate for overbetting. Moreover, the SPR is not that big, so we can put a standard 75% pot bet on the turn and then comfortably shove the river, so we don't have to overbet to get all the money in by the river. So yeah, we don't have an actual reason to overbet here with any hand pretty much, and considering Ace-10 specifically, as I said before, I don't really think it is a good choice of hand to overbet. I believe we want to at least have Ace-Jack offsuit to start overbetting here, because a recreational player can easily have Ace-Jack himself. So it could be that we are overbetting against a stronger hand, which is not great. But anyways, we have what we have. We overbet and face a shove from a recreational player, and I think we should contemplate what to do against this shove now. So let's go to the stats. First, we already mentioned that his 1-1 soft flop is 52. He's also aggressive on pretty much every street. And I also want to point out his won money at showdown stat. It is 48, and I believe that if he was capable of turning some hands, not turning anything into anything, if he was capable of overplaying hands like Ace-Deuce, Ace-7, Ace-5 in a spot like this, this indicator would be much lower, around 42 to 43%. But since he has a number which is pretty much standard for your average regular with 1-1 soft flop of 52, I don't think he is overplaying those weaker top pairs in a spot like this. So even after we put an overbet on the turn, I think it is very close to a fold against a shove. Even against a quite aggressive guy, according to stats. So yeah, I think it's a fold. Anyways, hero calls and villain shows Queen 8. I also want to point out that the guy is losing only 38 blinds for over 13k hands with a VPIP of 46%. It is not that bad of a win rate actually for those stats. Anyways, moving on. Second hand on the way, we again have Ace-10 offsuit on the big blind. Same story, we face a limp from the button this time. We again ISO to 4 big blinds and get a call. Okay, this is our VIP player, 66-9, losing over 100 big blinds per 100 hands. Very passive post flop overall. Only on the river we see some sort of a higher aggression frequency. But all in all, your standard passive rack. So what do? We have a gut shot, we bet third of the pot, villain calls, and a total blank on the turn. And we bet third pot one more time. I actually like this choice of size, because if we take a look at villain's fold to c-bet stats, we see that he Well, he doesn't really like to fold. He folds 45, 34 and 31 by street. So we either want to check, because the guy is very passive on flops and turns, as we saw earlier. His aggression frequency is quite low, but aggression frequency is basically the same for the frequency of bets. I mean, if the guy has a low aggression frequency both on the flop and on the turn, then we can expect him to almost never bet against a check on flops and turns. So yeah, against this guy we can just check our hand on the turn, expecting him to check bet a lot of the times. Well, this was the first option, to simply check our hand. The second option is to bet really small, like 1 big blind or 3 big blinds. The idea is we want to cheaply realize our equity. We want to buy a river card as cheaply as possible. It is quite possible that we are not only looking for an 8 here, which completes a straight for our hand. Very well may be that a 10 would also give us the best hand, and an ace of course. So yeah, we bet the turn and the villain calls. And what do we have next? We have a king on the river. And hero decides to bet big here. Well, I'd say that in the end of the day it is a mistake. Villain's fold on the river is 24%, so he doesn't really like folding on that street. So yeah, well, maybe if we want to bluff, we can bet something like really small. To maybe try folding out some complete air balls. We also could have checked on the river if it wasn't for villain's high river aggression frequency, which means that if we check and he has some 8 or 10 high combo, he can very well try to bluff. And since we fold against any bet pretty much, it's not that good for us. So yeah, because of that, it is probably reasonable for us to bet something really small to fold out those 8 high and 10 high combos, which we beat on the other hand. But then again, we only want to bet to not give him an opportunity to bluff us off of our hand. So yeah, I prefer betting small here. Well, definitely not that big. It's it's a very expensive bluff for us against a guy who is quite stationary on the river, according to his stats. And he does call eventually with a 2-pair combo. Okay, moving on. Next hand, Ace-Jack offsuit. Cut off limps, and we ISO to 5 big blinds this time. Monotone board, let's take a look at villain's stats. Clearly another VIP player, 77 to 4, losing more than 110 BBs. We bet small, he calls, and 5 comes on the turn. Well, here we can either bet or check. Both options are fine. According to villain's stats, he is quite aggressive, especially on the turn, so we can check to induce some bluffs. And we have a jack of spades, which protects us, but hero decides to bet again. We face a min raise and we don't have any other options but to call it. Well, his check raise on the turn is not that high, 8%, but at the same time his won at showdown is only 39%, which means that he can easily overplay some hands here. I mean, he can overplay a weaker ace or maybe a king x combo with a spade. I mean, yeah, something like that. Anyways, an easy call for us, and then we can reevaluate on the river. Okay, 10 on the river, he bets third. And yeah, what do we want to do about it? Well, I don't think we can fold it because of the reasons I just mentioned. This guy can easily overplay a weaker ace, hands like ace deuce, ace 4. So yeah, I believe we cannot fold it. And again, I mostly focus here on the fact that his won money at showdown is only 39%. and he loses a lot of money. Like this is a huge lose rate. So he doesn't really understand what's going on in the game, I believe. Hence, the only option I see is calling. We do call, and he shows 2 pairs. I mean, he improved to 2 pair on the river, but on the turn he decided to raise 3rd pair with a flush draw. So we were right, he is capable of overplaying hands. It is an easy call on the turn for him, but he for some reason decided to raise it. And it also means that he can, of course, overplay some hands on the river as well. Okay, this is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. We appreciate any feedback. Please let us know what you think, and see you next time.